You have such a robot laugh. You're like, ha 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 ha.
Really, to me, it's the laughing at the end when they're just like, oh, you talk like this and you did like, I was like, that's what I love about a relationship. It's like, we know each other so well. It's like, it's fine. You can be that here. No one's judging that. I actually accept you. I love what she's like, your nose is like weird. I'm like, yeah, like we feel accepted. And I'm like, that's what a real relationship kind of is.
Hi, I'm Maya Erskine. I play Jane on Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
Hi, I'm Donald Glover, and I play John.
I'm Francesca Sloane. I am the showrunner of Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
And this is Variety's Making a Scene.
No, don't do it.
That's not how you use those things. Those shots. I just found that out later. I was like, oh, this looks cooler. I was like, this definitely looks cooler.
Yeah, the stab.
Yeah.
We talked about how it was like nice to go boom, click. Like it just felt like very functional.
That literally was like one of the first things we came up with, was wanting it to end the way that it ended.
We found that it was really hard to find spy things that didn't feel like, there's a better word than kitschy, but like just things that didn't feel like played. What was that Melissa McCarthy movie, Spy? I feel like they did a good job of like all the spy tropes and being slapstick with them. Truth Serum was like one of these tropes, but you do kind of wish you had truth serum in a relationship. Really, all that stuff is like, it just takes time. Like, you just got to get to know the person and all this stuff. And then like by year 7, it's like, you don't need truth serum anymore. But that's a long time and a lot of hard work.
What is this doing to me?
It's making you honest. You've never been honest. Ever.
Full disclosure, I had like experienced couples therapy with my spouse. And the couples therapist was like, maybe you two need to like sit at sunset, do MDMA, and remind each other of how you love each other again. You know, it's sort of like that idea, just in spy terms.
Everyone around you thinks that you're a sweet idiot.
I directed that episode. I love directing and being and stuff, but like, I don't suggest it. It's like, it's not.
I don't love it.
Yeah, like it especially with like fight scenes and stuff. It's a very, it's very tough and it's exhausting. You don't completely get to be the audience. But anyway, I just remember that scene. I remember like Maya was playing it really well, and she's like definitely frightened, which was what I wanted. But I remember being at the scene, being like, "Is this too much? This seems a little like fucked up." Like,
Oh my God.
because like when you see the original Mr. and Mrs. Smith when they're fighting, it's like. It's pretty intense, but they have this like boom, 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 but like this like music that makes it okay. So we were like, well, we're not gonna do that. We're not gonna play, you know, CeeLo's like fuck you or anything like behind it. So how are we gonna get away with this? And we were like, well, it just has to feel more like a conversation, like they're speaking in a way that they know how to speak to each other at this point.
I was also terrified. Like that was actually, and that I think that's why I was excited to do it, because it was like a scene that made me very nervous. Like I was, because it is one of those. It was how many pages? Like 14, 15. Like it,
So long.
you know. A lot was cut out, but like it felt like this sprawling like experiment, honestly. And I think that's why the scene was so great to do, because it scared the shit out of me. Like I was terrified of it, because you do have to kind of take big swings, and you don't want to play everything the same. And yeah, I felt like I could have made an asshole out of myself, but it was, you know, that's why it was really, I don't know, it felt, yeah, like cathartic to do and also terrifying.
Did you love me? Did you even love me?
I did.
He can be incompetent because he actually does care about people, you know, and I feel like she does too. But why would she give you that information? Like, it's like, that's kind of her card. I mean, I don't know if she is stronger that way, but she definitely feels stronger that way. And I feel like that's the heart of it, I think, a little bit, is, you know, I don't think we have to ask John a little bit. It's like, did you actually like her? It's like, yeah, like it was very, I felt like it was clear already that like he was vulnerable in that way.
The characters, John and Jane, are so withholding the entire time. And we wanted an opportunity to sort of just let them fully throw everything at the wall, like be sweaty and horny and sad all at once, and finally let the audience get some answers in this way. But we wanted to sort of play with that in terms of relationships. And to Donald's point, it's like that moment when you start to really know someone and you're sort of bearing all in terms of an actual couple, but how do you do that in spy terms? So it just felt like the right way to do it.
I hate you.
I hate you too.
She helped me a lot, actually, because of directing. Like, I was like, I don't know if this is good. Like, I was like, I'm fuck. Like, I had like really hard point of view, but like she really, because she was so dialed in, I was like, oh, I'll just follow Maya's lead. Like I was like I was like, okay, like this is we need this now, like a little bit, which was so helpful. So like, yeah, Maya killed that scene.
To me, it felt like the least violent part of the whole fight. In a way, it was more just like, no, we're gonna do this as a couple. We're doing this, and she was just like, and you catch us at such an exhausted point, which I loved. That like Donald, when directing, was really stressing, like we need to be exhausted by the end of this, like, because in fights you always see in movies they're like able to fight the whole time and like look gorgeous, but at the end of a fight like you have no energy, and so she can barely fight him off, but is so, it almost feels like the ultimate form of betrayal to her in that moment, to Jane, because he is making her tell the truth, and that's the last thing that she wants, but it's what is necessary for them to get to the next stage of their relationship.
But it's also really sexy because it's sort of like he then doses himself.
Right.
What takes the horror and it turns into this thing that is actually really romantic in a way. Like he's trying throughout the episode, what did you think when we first met? And she's still saying like, I thought that basically you were a mark and that you'd be easy to manipulate. And he's like, she's still lying. She's still not telling the truth.
Just because you don't understand me doesn't make me a liar.
That's bullshit.
We did it in order. That I was made sure we did it in order, because I was like, that's very important. And when you don't have that much time, because like I would have loved to do it for 2 days, which would have been also exhausting in a different way. But like it was one of those things where it's like, okay, we'll do a wide, and then the wide will kind of show us like, oh, that was good. This is where we want to get this other part.
You did that brilliant thing. We had a painting above the mantle, and a lot of the art switched out, but this painting kind of remained the whole time, which was the Swans painting by Hilma F. Klint. And it's like these two entangled swans, which really represents sort of the spy versus spy, and the yin and the yang, and the woman and the man. And so they have that moment on the carpet where they're sort of becoming like those swans start to finally embrace again.
Can I smell your neck?
No.
Do you want me to do it anyway?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We shot in pretty much chronological order until, right? Like, I mean, for the most part, except for a couple episodes, it really lended itself well to the chemistry, because when we did the first episode, we were really just getting to know each other. We were just becoming friends. And so there were those
We were really awkward.
Okay, and there were.
I was super awkward.
Well, you had sinus issues going on, and so that was like it's a slow build, and so that really mimicked what was going on screen, and I think we got to play with that, which was really helpful. That teasing that Donald's talking about, like that was a discovery as we were filming of like, oh, this is a good aspect to their relationships, and especially Jane, because she's so closed off, that I loved that there were pockets of it before it's even in this big finale, this big scene.
We were always talking about like what makes this sexy, what kind of sexy is it? It's like, it's not going to be the 90s like Brad and Angelina like sexy, so like what sexy is this? And we were kept being like intimacy.
But I'm glad you didn't tell me beforehand like this needs to feel sexy in this like I'm glad there were never any like dictations of like, oh, this is how it should feel, or but like it just felt like it took on its own shape, and the sexiness came because it was so intimate and messy and very John and Jane.
I hate how your voice goes so low when you want to be charming.
We talked a lot about spy versus spy.
Donald and I, when we started, we literally sat together. I got like a big book of every Spy versus Spy comic, and we just like laughed at them together.
I just remember when we were choosing the costumes frame, was like, I was thinking like we do the Spy versus Spy thing, and I definitely really wanted to wear what I was wearing. I was like, I definitely would wear that. I just thought that was super cool.
I had a shot at you at the stairs.
I had 3 clear shots at you in the kitchen.
It's very easy, I think, even subconsciously, for you to watch that last episode in general and just be like, they complement each other. Like, you know, they're stronger together. That was the heart to me of a lot of it, was just, it's hard to do it alone.
For a man, especially John's character, who wanted to be a spy his whole life, who has this big decorated soldier father who he's looked up to, who's always been like the man of the house, and he always expected to be the Bond of the film. And in that moment, he realizes what will make him stronger is actually to let Jane take that role.
What's your plan?
You're asking me?
Yeah.
For that type of man and the way that he was raised and the way that he thought this would go, for him to say that is like a really big, generous, and also smart move on his part. So it shows his growth in the same way we just saw Jane's growth in the truth serum, of her saying all of these things and finally expressing her love. And he needed that too.
Look at me. I want to tell you something important. We can have 1 kid.
I played it as she means it. Like I do think in that moment, whether it's out of desperation to keep him alive, whatever I think she does mean it. And I've always played her as she actually does. She would have kids. I don't know if that's right, but that's how I always saw it.
Well, there's that beautiful moment with you two on the carpet, your swan moment, right? When you guys are, where he says he would want to have children with her, even if she is a sociopath, if she's exactly the Jane that he knows anyway. And I think that kind of is like, that's all she needed to really hear to feel like she could maybe do it with this particular person. One of the things that I'm proudest of as a writer, and I don't talk about myself this often in that way ever actually, but was when we came up with this moment where she nods, and Maya, the way that you perform it, it's like so subtle and so vulnerable and sweet, but about him being okay when he's like bleeding out and his organs are almost like hanging out of his stomach.
Is it bad? Liar.
And she lies, so we're aware then, because of that lie, that the truth serum has worn off. We want the audience to be able to ask the question that you're asking. Is Jane telling the truth or not in this moment? And does it really matter?
And we talk a lot about lying in relationships too, and how like it is a tool. It's like a tool. Like, you tell the truth when you're supposed to, and you lie when you're supposed to. That's like, you know, like when you need it, when someone needs that for something, you know, but not like to hurt or deceive someone.
Right.
To me, anyway, I felt like she's like, I'm lying to keep you going, but I feel like my character is like, you're lying to keep you going a little bit, and you don't have to do that. Like, you don't have to do that with me. The whole thing can be seen in a bunch of ways.
Wasn't Donald's hands. When we were cutting the final episode, we're like, we don't have enough to show the dramatic quality that he's dying. So that's a double.
Personally, for me on Atlanta, like I always was like, no one cares about these guys. It's really about just Atlanta. People just like the feeling. I was like, no, people like people. And with this episode, we were like, you know, we wanted people to care. So it definitely makes me feel good that like people give a fuck about them and that relationship. That's also what's great to me. It's like people are like, man, we like them together.
To Donald's point, it's like everything is so fast now, right? Like everything is so fast. It's so hard to sit and digest something. And we created a cliffhanger for a reason. And it's like, if we were to answer that, you know, as much as like I love and respect that people want to talk to us in these interviews and stuff like that, especially somebody like me where I'm like, why do you want to hear what I have to say? But it's sort of like, why would we give all that up when we haven't even given you season 2 yet? you know, like be patient. The present will be so much more fulfilling when you wait to open it on actual Christmas instead of trying to like peek at it early before it's time, you know? So you'll be satisfied with what we give you. We'll give you that.